Good morning, Colorado. Good morning, Gary. Hope all is well. On this Memorial Day, I certainly want to join in on honoring those who've paid the ultimate sacrifice and thanking all those who've served. Here on the Business Brief, we aim to educate and inform you on what's going on with business and why, so that you can make sound decisions when it comes to your wallet, your livelihood, and our community. So let's get to business. This morning, the U.S. markets are closed in observance of Memorial Day. So there's still lots to glean from the markets from last week, where we saw overall wide swings in the markets, but overall a strong week of gains driven by vaccine optimism and reopenings across the country. Expect the markets this week to respond to rising U.S.-China tensions, in particular what's happening in Hong Kong right now, and continuing reopening news. And with over half of American households having direct ownership of stocks or indirectly through their retirement accounts like 401ks, it's important we stay on top of what's happening with our markets. Next up, let's talk about the U.S. Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, who issued their final rule to modernize the Banking Community Reinvestment Act. This is a culmination of a multi-year process to improve the CRA by clarifying what qualifies for CRA credit, updating how banks define their assessment areas, and evaluating bank CRA performance. The final rules framework is supposed to increase support for small businesses and now includes credit for bank investment in qualified opportunity zones. That's a big deal. Next up, let's talk about the Colorado unemployment rate. It soared to a new record high. The Colorado Department of Labor released the unemployment situation for April, and it is ugly. Non-farm payroll declined by 323,500 jobs, and the unemployment rate increased to 11.3%, the highest on record since comparable data has been collected since 1976. The prior record was 8.9% in 2010 during the Great Recession. The biggest hits to our economy were, of course, in leisure and hospitality, with education and health services being a distant yet still significant second. Gary, I had a great discussion with the Society of Human Resource Management, also known as SHRM's CEO and President Johnny C. Taylor Jr., about their new COVID-19 Business Index and the future of work. Johnny C. Taylor Jr., President and CEO of the Society of Human Resources Management. Thanks for joining us. It's good to see you.
So good to be here. Thank you, Ryan.
Well, let's get to business. Now, SHRM, as it's also known, and Oxford Economics are putting together this COVID-19 Business Index bi-weekly. What is the index telling us about the state of work and business in America?
Well, not surprisingly, it's telling us that post-pandemic, it's in flux, right? There's so much that we don't know. You hear people say we don't know a lot about the disease. Well, we also don't fully understand the impact of the disease on lives and livelihoods. So this research that we've conducted is about understanding how this is impacting the American worker and employers. And so that those two, we can find some way to reconcile what the new norm is going to be with respect to work relationships.
Now, in the data that I've seen, you all mentioned that over $1.3 trillion in lost income to American workers, and 20% of that are employees who kept their jobs but have seen their earnings reduced. Now, Johnny, do you all expect those reductions, those cuts to be permanent, or will they be restored as the economy and businesses ultimately start to recover?
Well, Ryan, so what's worrying me, and frankly, to answer your question, I think they're permanent, and I think it may get a little worse. Mm-hmm. What we're realizing now is that employers are taking this period of time, these last 10 or 12 weeks when people have been working remotely, to determine, do we want to bring people back to the workplace? There's savings to be had if you don't have to pay for office space and the donuts and the coffee and all of the stuff, receptionists, security guards. So do we need to bring people back to work at all? And then the second question is, and do we need the same number of people, even if they're working at home? So what concerns us, frankly, I highlighted, and it's just responsible business, is employers are figuring out how to do this more efficiently, how to be more efficient and ultimately more profitable. And so this number may hold.
Yeah, that's obviously concerning for all of us, Johnny. You know, in addition to hosting and analyzing on this show the business brief. I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm also a business owner.
Yes.
And, there are a lot of business owners here in Colorado and the Rocky Mountain region. And I think they'd like to know, how is SHRM using or planning to use this COVID-19 business index to assist decision makers and organizations as they manage getting back to work, and whether you have any recommendations that they can draw from?
So in a couple of ways, specifically referring people to the website, because I can't give it to y'all in the next few minutes, but shrm.org/back to work. A couple of things one can find there. One, you'll figure out, how do I bring people back to work safely? As safely as we can do it. And there are a lot of learnings. We say this is new. China has done it before us. So we talk to Chinese companies to figure out how it works. We have domestic companies. Boeing brought people back to Washington State, 27,000 people a couple of weeks back. So there's some learnings about what worked and what didn't work. That's what people can find. Secondly, how do you figure out who should work remotely and who shouldn't? How do you get as much productivity out of people who are working remotely? Because we shouldn't make the assumption that everyone is more productive working remotely. In fact, the research would suggest only 31% of your employees are more productive working remotely. That data is there. And then finally, we really are trying to teach you how to build culture. How to maintain culture in a remote or increasingly more remote workforce. How do you maintain that special thing that makes your business and you as an employer unique?
Johnny C. Taylor, Jr., President and CEO of the Society of Human Resources Management, thank you for joining us. We hope to have you back on to hear more about how the COVID-19 Business Index is helping businesses manage through this economic downturn and
love to
recovery.
Thank you, Ryan. I look forward to talking with you later, and all of my friends there in Denver.
Thanks.